Hello, what's up and what's happening? This is another Miles Dawkins 24/7 production, and it is Throwback Thursday. Let's get into it. So I got this Madden 2004 gameplay just for y'all. That 04 Mike Vick. Y'all remember that game? Now I'm going to be representing those Denver Broncos, and we're going to be taking on those Pittsburgh Steelers. Now Jerome Bettis, he's going to have a hell of a game. Make sure you watch it. Plexico Burrs. Who? Yeah, Plexico Burrs. He's going to go off this game as well, and I'm going to try my best to compete with these Denver Broncos. Now this is just going to be the backdrop for what I'm going to be talking about on that black screen. And so we're going to be talking about the NFL. Now, baseball, they just, they just inducted players into their Hall of Fame, right? They just, had the announcement for the guys that were getting in for the 2014 class, right? Well, the NFL today, this Thursday on NFL Network, they're going to be talking about the top 15 finalists to get in to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And then it's going to be like 5, 6, or 7 players or coaches that are going to get in. Now, there's one guy that I felt should have been in last year. Should have been in 2 years ago. He's not a first ballot Hall of Famer. His time, he retired like over 10 years ago, all right? So he wasn't the first ballot in my eyes for certain reasons, but he was a great player as Jerome Bettis is going ham down the sideline. Oh my gosh, you will see the replay of that run. That was a crazy run by my man Jerome Bettis. So one of the finalists, I believe, will be this guy right here, Jerome Bettis. Hopefully Terrell Davis. Got love for Terrell Davis. Tim Brown, Andre Reed. I'm not lobbying for these guys to get in. There's a certain guy that I feel like should be in the Hall of Fame. He should have been in there 2 years ago. Definitely should be in this year. All right, and I'm gonna tell y'all a story. And the story goes like this, right? There's this outside linebacker slash DM, in that Clay Matthews, DeMarcus Ware, James Harrison type of mold, right? One of the knocks on him is that he played for multiple teams. He played for 4 teams during his career, and he had 2 stints with one of those teams. You can really say he played for 5 teams. Whatever, you really want to be technical. I look at that, and I think to myself, well, Reggie White, he played for 3 teams. Deion Sanders played for 5 teams. Those guys are Hall of Famers. And no, I'm not comparing this guy to them, because those guys are icons of the game. Icons of the game. But this guy was just one of the best pass rushers of his era. One of the best pass rushers of his era. And for whatever reason, they don't talk about him, and he's not in the Hall of Fame. So story time. Again, one of the best pass rushers of the 90s. He got drafted back in 1986. That was his rookie season. He was a backup, didn't get any sacks. So his first year in the league, he didn't get any sacks. Second year as a backup, he got about 6 sacks. His third year, again, as a backup, still he got about 7 sacks. First year as a starter, 16.5 sacks. Second year as a starter, 16.5 sacks. All right? So, did he win a Super Bowl? No, he didn't win a Super Bowl. But he was on contending teams. He played for the Rams in the 80s. And they were getting dogged by the Niners in those championship games and the playoff games because, hey, the Niners were the team of the 80s. So, like, come on, now we got to be fair just a little bit. You know what I mean? So, okay, what happened in the 90s? Well, he played for the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Pittsburgh Steelers, they went on and they lost to the Dallas Cowboys in 1995. I believe it was like Super Bowl 30. I think it was Super Bowl 30. And he lost the Pittsburgh Steelers. He was on Pittsburgh Steelers. They lost to him, to the Dallas Cowboys. Then you have him joining the Carolina Panthers. Carolina Panthers were in their 2nd year of existence. The Carolina Panthers were in their 2nd year of existence, and they went all the way to the NFC Championship game, and he was the big reason why they got there, and they lost to the Green Bay Packers, and the Green Bay Packers went on to beat the New England Patriots in Super Bowl, I believe that was 31 or 32. So he went to the Super Bowl. He went to countless NFC Championship games. He played for the San Francisco 49ers, and they the very next year and lost to the Packers in the NFC Championship game. The Packers go on, and they end up losing to the Denver Broncos. So the point that I'm making that he played on contending teams. Did he win the Super Bowl? No, but neither did Dan Marino, and he's in the Hall of Fame first ballot. Again, not trying to compare him to Dan Marino. Dan Marino's an icon of the game. Icon. This guy, y'all might not even heard of him, okay? But let's go back to the stats, right? Now, Deacon Jones, he says he's the sack king. I'm not going to argue with Deacon Jones. Rest in peace, Deacon Jones. You are the sack king. I'm not going to tell you that you're not. But for the sake of this conversation, the sake of this argument, let's just go by stats. This guy, the guy that I feel like should be in the Hall of Fame, he's only behind 2 people when it comes to career sacks. He has more sacks than Lawrence Taylor. He has more sacks than Michael Strahan, okay? This dude is a flat-out beast, flat-out monster. He's only behind 2 guys when it comes to career sacks. That's Bruce Smith, who has 200, and that's Reggie White, who has 198 career sacks. This guy is also being compared to Charles Haley. Charles Haley is behind him by 60, by about 60 sacks. Charles Haley has around 100 career sacks. This man has 160 career sacks, 3rd all time. The guy that I'm talking about is Kevin Green. Kevin Green, the linebackers coach for the Green Bay Packers. Clay Matthews is like a version of him. I'm not lying. If you don't know who Kevin Green is, look him up. He was part of one of the best linebacker corps in history for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I ain't talking about like the history of the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm talking about the history of the NFL. One of the best linebacker corps. You had Greg Lloyd on one side, pass rush. I mean, people talk about James Harrison, you know, being like that, this ruthless pit bull type of player. That was Greg Lloyd in the 90s, right? They had an inside linebacker by the name of LaVon Kirkland. Now, remember Manti Te'o's 40 time last year at the Combine? It was like a 4.8. Well, LaVon Kirkland ran like a 4.6 at 275 pounds. Inside linebacker. You know what I mean? Then you had Kevin Green off of the edge, who was a flat-out beast. Flat-out monster. Again, 160 career sacks. So people want to talk about Charles Haley because they did play the same position, and I get it. Charles Haley is a name. Kevin Green might not be a name. He might not be a household name. But Kevin Green has 60 more sacks than Charles Haley. So people want to talk about Super Bowls. I get it. In the NFL, this is why I love football. And a lot of other sports, you're not measured about your championships. You know what I mean? A lot of people get into the Hall of Fame. A lot of people consider one of the best of the game without winning a championship in other sports. In football, you got to win the Super Bowl, right? You got to be one of the contenders year in and year out. I totally get that. Totally get it. Charles Haley is being compared to Kevin Green because they play the same position. Charles Haley has 6 Super Bowl rings. 6 of them. 6. He's a beast, right? 100 career sacks. Flat out monster, right? He single-handedly maybe changed the tide from the 80s to the 90s. And on the 80s, he played with the Niners, excuse me. And then in the 90s, he played with the Cowboys, right? 80s Niners, 90s Cowboys, right? Okay. So they take Charles Haley from the Cowboys. The Cowboys become the team of the 90s. I don't think that that's a coincidence at all. I don't. I think Charles Haley is one of the biggest reasons to why both teams had success. But let's be real. In the 80s, the Niners had Ronnie Lott on defense. They had a guy by the name of Joe Montana. They had Jerry Rice. You know what I mean? So that team was stacked with Charles Haley or without Charles Haley. You talk about the Cowboys in the 90s. So we're talking about Emmitt Smith, Troy Aikman, Michael Irvin, one of the best O-lines to ever play together. You know what I mean? And then eventually to get Deion Sanders. So Charles Haley played on stacked teams where he wasn't asked to do it all. But should he be a Hall of Fame? Absolutely. But to say that he's more deserving than Kevin Green, let's pump your brakes, man. Pump your brakes. Kevin Green, again, 160 career sacks. You telling me somebody that has 160 career sacks should wait? He's 3rd all time in sacks and he should wait? Come on, man. His quarterbacks were Neil O'Donnell, Cordell Stewart. You know what I mean? His quarterbacks were Kerry Collins with the Panthers. You know what I mean? Like, this dude is a Hall of Famer. Put him up in there. Put him up in there, man. So, as you see, Clinton Portis, he putting the ball on the ground. What are you doing? Come on, man. So we're gonna walk about here with the L. We lost. Oh, it sucks, man. Playing these old school games is hard. Madden back then was a lot more realistic than it is now. I'm just saying. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. As always, I enjoy bringing it to you, and I'm gonna see y'all later. I hope the rest of your day is the best of your day, and I'm out.